How to disappear off the grid and start a new life. In this video, I share 7 out of 10 important points on the topic how to disappear off the grid and start a new life. This includes creating a new identity, choosing your new location, establishing an untraceable residence, and more. However, I strongly recommend that you visit our site and read the full article on the subject so it will be covered from head to toe. Enjoy our video. There are many reasons why someone might want to disappear off the grid. Maybe they are running from their government's oppression, or maybe they just want to start over with a clean slate. Whatever the reason, there are a few things that need to be taken into consideration before disappearing. But first, a disclaimer. I do not condone any criminal behavior. The methods listed here are perfectly legal and within your human rights. If you are running because you have committed a serious crime, please turn yourself over to the authorities. This guide is directed to people who wish to start fresh or are escaping from an unjust system. Let's begin. 1. Create a new identity. The first step in disappearing off the grid is creating a new identity. This can be a daunting task, but with careful planning and execution, you can successfully create a new identity to allow you to live your life off the grid. Here are some guidelines. Choose a new name. This is perhaps the most important part of creating your new identity. Your new name should be unique, yet not so strange that it would be difficult for others to remember or pronounce. It should also be reasonably common to make it easier for you to obtain documents in your new name. Once you've chosen your new name, stick with it and never use your old name again. Get new documentation. Once you have your new name picked out, you need to start obtaining official documentation in that name. This includes things like a driver's license, passport, birth certificate, social security card, etc. Depending on where you live and what type of identification you need, this process can vary greatly. Establish new financial accounts. Opening a new bank account, getting a credit card, and establishing other financial accounts under a new name may seem like a daunting task, but it doesn't have to be. Here's how to do it. 1. Open a checking and savings account at a local bank branch under your new name. Bring along your new driver's license or passport as identification. 2. Get a secured credit card under your new name. A secured credit card is one that requires you to put down a deposit equal to your credit limit, usually $200 to $500. This deposit acts as collateral in case you default on your payments. Once you've established good payment history with the card, you can transition to an unsecured credit card from the same issuer or another company altogether. 3. Apply for utility services in your new name. This includes things like phone service, internet service, gas and electric service, etc. When applying for these services, you need to provide proof of identity and residency. You can also produce your own electrical energy if you prefer. 4. Establishing other financial accounts such as investments, loans, etc. can be done through various online channels by providing some basic personal information. This includes setting up a PayPal account linked to either your checking account or debit credit cards. Change your appearance. Changing your appearance doesn't mean you have to go through a complete makeover. There are some simple changes you can make to help you blend in and become less noticeable. 1. Get a new haircut in style. 2. Update your wardrobe. 3. Change your makeup routine. I elaborate about each point in the article on our site. Create a believable backstory. Believable backstory should include where you were born, what kind of childhood you had, any major life events that have shaped you who you are today. Once you have a general outline of your backstory, start filling in the details. Think about how your parents met, what their jobs were, what kind of house you grew up in, and so on. 1. Make up a history that's similar to those around you. 2. Be consistent with your story. 3. Keep it simple. 4. Make sure there are no holes in your story. Again, you can learn a lot more about each point by reading the full article on our site. 2. Sever old ties to your old life. Severing old ties to your old life is a necessary part of disappearing off the grid. If you want to be truly hidden, you can't keep any connections to your previous identity. That means giving up your job, your home, your friends, and your family. It might sound drastic, but it's the only way to ensure that no one can find you. First, quit your job. This might mean resigning or simply walking away without notice. You need to sever all ties with your place of employment. Delete any online accounts associated with work, such as email addresses or social media profiles. Cancel any memberships or subscriptions connected to your work life, such as professional organizations or trade publications. Next, leave your home. You don't have to sell everything and hit the road. You could rent out your house or apartment while you're gone, but get rid of anything that could tie it back to you. Utility bills in your name, personal items, photos, etc. Delete any online accounts related to where you live and unsubscribe from any physical mail that gets delivered there. Now it's time to say goodbye to your friends and family, permanently. This is probably the hardest part of disappearing off the grid, but it's important not to have any loose ends that could lead someone back to you. Cut off all communication with loved ones, no phone calls, emails, text messages, letters, or even social media posts. 3. Choose your location. There are a lot of factors to consider when choosing an off-grid location. You need to think about things like climate, access to resources, and quality of life. Here are some guidelines to help you choose the right location for you. 1. Consider your climate preferences. Do you want to live in a warm or cold climate? Do you want to be near the ocean or in the mountains? Consider what kind of climate will make you happy and comfortable. 2. Think about access to resources. If you're planning on living off the grid, you need to have access to things like water, food, and firewood. Make sure that your chosen location has these things nearby. 3. Consider your quality of life. Living off the grid can be a challenge, so it's important to choose a location that suits your lifestyle and personality. Make sure that you'll be able to find happiness in your new home. 4. Construct or purchase your shelter. One of the most significant things to consider is where you will live. There are two main options here. You can either construct your own shelter or house, or purchase an existing one. If you decide to build your own shelter, make sure the land you purchase is large enough for both your home and any outbuildings or greenhouses that you plan on constructing. You'll also need to factor in things like water source, well or spring, power, solar panels, and waste disposal, septic system. If money is no object, you could always hire someone else to do all this work for you. Purchasing an existing property is usually cheaper and easier than building your own home from scratch, but it's important to remember that not all properties are created equal. Some may come with their own set of challenges, like being located too close to civilization. When searching for property, look for something that already has some infrastructure in place, so you won't have to start completely from scratch. In terms of size, anything from 1 to 5 acres should be sufficient depending on how many people will be living with you and what sorts of animals, livestock you plan on keeping. And don't forget about access. Make sure that whatever piece of land you choose has good road access so you can easily get in and out as needed without having to hike miles through the woods every time. 5. Establish an untraceable residence. An important step in disappearing off the grid is to establish an untraceable residence. This can be done in a number of ways, but the most important thing is that your residence cannot be linked back to you in any way. One option is to purchase a property using cash or cryptocurrency, so there is no paper trail linking the property to you. There are cheap lots and affordable tiny houses that can be bought for a reasonable price without involving any bank transfers or credit cards. Another option is to find a rental property that does not require a credit check or background check. There are a number of websites that cater to people looking for these types of rentals. Once you find a suitable property, you can pay for it in cash and make sure that there is no paper trail linking you to the address. There is another alternative that you may consider. Instead of buying a house and land, you can live off the grid in a van or live full-time in an RV. I cover these topics in full on our site, so feel free to check them out and learn everything there is to know about these options. 6. Store food and water for long-term survival. When it comes to disappearing off the grid for a long period of time, one of the most essential things is storing food and water. This will ensure that you have enough to last before you start growing your own food or before you feel safe enough to venture to the nearest settlement for shopping. Here are a few things that you should keep in mind. 1. Store food in airtight containers. This will keep it fresh for longer and prevent pests from getting into it. 2. If possible, store food in a cool, dark place. This will help it stay fresher for longer. 3. Make sure to rotate your stored food regularly so it doesn't go bad. A good rule of thumb is to use the oldest food first and work your way down to the newer stuff. 4. When storing water, make sure to use clean, sanitized containers. You can also purify water before storing it by boiling it or using a water filter system. As for water, try to store at least a gallon of water per day. This will ensure that you have enough in case of emergency situation where you can't access clean water sources. 7. Finance your off-the-grid life. You will need to figure out how you're going to finance your new lifestyle. If you have savings, that's great. You can use that money, at least for the first few months, to buy supplies and set yourself up in your new home. If you don't have any savings, don't worry, as there are still plenty of options available to you. 1. Start a homesteading business. If you're good at growing vegetables or raising chickens, you could start a small business selling your produce or eggs at local farmers markets or online. 2. Do odd jobs for your neighbors. In exchange for a rent-free living, you could offer to do odd jobs for your neighbors, mowing lawns, shoveling snow, etc. 3. Barter goods and services. When living off the grid, it's important to get creative with how you earn money. One way to do this is bartering goods and services with others who are also living off the grid. For example, if you're a good cook, you could trade meals with someone who is good at fixing cars. 4. Start an online business. Just because you're living off the grid doesn't mean you can start an online business. There are many businesses that can be run entirely remotely. All you need is a laptop and internet connection. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our video, please like it and subscribe to support our channel. For the full article and more information about off-grid living, survival, camping and much more, please visit our site and enjoy our articles on these and other topics. Have an amazing day.